All right, it's another film study by the numbers as we cram all of this into hopefully an early game on Thursday. Ken McCusick, how you doing?
Life's good, Josh. How about you?
I'm doing well. And Dan, how's it going?
It's going great. Pretty crazy week this so far.
It's tough when it's a short week, and with the coronavirus stuff, it makes it even tougher with the Ravens this week.
No fun at all. I got to tell you, it's one of these things. There's a lot of people saying, "Boy, I wish they just forfeit," as if that were a practical option here.
I think there's still a chance. I don't know. Good experience for the young guys at least. So we'll see what happens.
Well, and it's tough to project anything when not all the names are released, so you don't know. And when we all question what's that number, how many people to get the game postponed, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, real quick, my bookie. With the holidays upon us, we come together to celebrate traditions as old as time: turkey dinners, NFL games, and the return of my bookie's Turkey Day free play. You heard it right. It's back. This week only. Sign up and get your first deposit matched halfway, and you'll receive a $250 risk-free bet on the Texans Lions full game spread. How does it work? You make your deposit, you place your bet on that early game spread, and if you win, you win, and that's cash in your pocket. But if your bet goes sideways, don't sweat it because they've got you covered with a refund up to $250 on your wager credited directly to your MyBookie account. So celebrate Turkey Day the MyBookie way and use the promo code Ravens to claim your deposit bonus all the way up to $1,000 and grab a $250 up to a $250 risk-free bet for that Thursday game. Promo code is Ravens, and your deposit bonus will be half of what you deposit. They'll give you as a free bet. So try that out. Go on over to MyBookie, support Filmstudy, and at least try out the free bet this Thursday.
Sounds like a really nice offer there. All right, let's go ahead. Dan, start us off with the first number.
All right, sounds good. First number, 41. Rush yards over expected for Derrick Henry in last week's game. That was the highest in the NFL in Week 11. 41 rush yards over expected, made up so 41 out of his 133 yards. That represented 1.53 yards per attempt over expected, which was the highest in Week 11 behind Melvin Gordon. And that was all despite running against an 8+ defenders in the box 50% of the time. So
that the 8+ defenders in the box, to be fair, is figured into those expected yards because that's this Austrian model which has all 22 players on the field.
Absolutely, you're right. Yep, it definitely does. But so that plays into the expected percentage. So, but still pretty impressive performance on his end. So
yeah, damn impressive. My first stats are 3.3 and 7.9. 3.3 is the yards per carry for the Titans through the end of quarter 3, and in fact, 21 of those yards were on a boot by Tannehill off play action. Otherwise, it would have been 2.5 yards, 49 yards on 20 carries. In the fourth quarter, 7.9 yards per carry. That's the fourth quarter in overtime, 103 yards on 13 carries. So the thing I take from that is the Ravens only activated 4 defensive linemen. It wasn't enough. They've protected Aaron Crawford this week. I imagine they will activate him versus the Steelers. Both of those teams have forced the Ravens, both the last 2 teams have forced the Ravens into a lot of base defense snaps, which uses 3 defensive linemen per play. So you eat up the availability of those linemen pretty damn quickly.
yeah, and if you think about it, it's not just 4 linemen. It's one 29-year-old backup in Ellis who isn't used to that many stats, a 30-year-old in Wolf who just looked tired despite a great game, and then 2 rookies. So it's a rough 4 guys to have out there as well. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're missing Wolf is an Iron Man, but they're missing 2 of their Iron Men with Williams and Campbell. That's for sure.
yeah. All right, next stat, 34. So that's the yards after catch for Des Bryant. I was really impressed with his showing. He kind of liked seeing him get involved. So his stats at the end were 4 catches for 28 yards. So when you think about that, 28 yards receiving and 34 yards after catch, that means he had -6 air yards. So almost all behind line of scrimmage. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do the rest of the season, how they can get him involved. You can clearly see he's got some got some ability to run after the catch. So see what he can do with the ball down the field.
Yeah, it was a fair number of those yards after the catch, I think, to J.K. Dobbins for that great block on the sideline. There were actually 2 blocks on that play, but Dobbins had the first one that really sprung him on that. I was pretty upset that Dez didn't come down with the ball for that first down on his first target of the game. And there was a penalty on the play anyway, so it would have been nullified. But boy, that would have been a nice completion to have and get the first down, or not get the first down, be penalized, and get another shot at it.
Yep.
All right, my next number is 0. That's the number of dime snaps for the Ravens in the last 2 games. And last year, the Ravens played 42% of snaps on defense with 6+ defensive backs, the highest in team history. This year, they're down to 24%. Not having a regular lead has been hurting, but hurting even more is the fact they don't really have a third safety they trust to be on the field. That's something I think the Ravens are going to have to address, because their set of inside linebackers who they're playing on third down are not getting it done in terms of closing out third and medium and long situations. So I think they're going to have to find that third guy who they like at safety, whether that's Jimmy Smith on the back end, moving Clark up. Maybe it's Tramon Williams playing in the box some, or playing even deep. But they've got to find who that next guy is in order to go back to a 3 safety, 3 corner alignment for most dimes that they've played.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting this year with game script, opponents, and injuries playing a big role of the limited dime snaps. I think it'd also be really interesting to see whether Pittsburgh goes pass heavy again with the 4 wide receivers, or if they try to pick on the weaker defensive line and go run heavies, which isn't necessarily their strength. So,
Yeah, scary to think that either could be effective.
right. And I don't know which I'd prefer that they do either. So, all right. Going back to the defensive line, next numbers are 81% and 82.9%. Those are the defensive snap percentages for Justin Ellis over the last 2 games without Brandon Williams. Justin Ellis had 29.2% of the snaps in the previous 6 games he was active, and never played higher than 45.8%. So that's a crazy difference between what he had done, but while Brandon Williams was on the field, versus what he had to do the last 2 games. And it looks like he's going to have another heavy workload against Pittsburgh this week with Brandon Williams out again.
He basically plays 100% of the snaps now where they use a nose tackle at all. They don't have any snaps where they play 3 down linemen and he's not on the field. So that's a unbelievable workload when they're facing a lot of such snaps with a real committed run team. A team's committed to either 21 or 12 personnel. So obviously that was the case the last 2 weeks.
Before we get started, if growing an e-commerce business is your focus, you'll need a platform that's focused on growth. That's where Klaviyo comes in. Klaviyo is the ultimate e-commerce marketing platform for online brands of all kinds and all sizes. Whether you're just getting started or running a well-known brand, it gives you everything you need to send memorable branded emails, text messages, and more, so you can build strong relationships that keep your customers coming back. With flexible automations, powerful insights, and super precise targeting, Klaviyo is a faster way to turn great ideas into great customer experiences. That's why it's trusted by more than 40,000 brands like Living Proof, Huckberry, and 8 Sleep. In fact, on average, Klaviyo customers see a 41% increase in overall revenue within 5 months. Klaviyo scales with you, so you never have to switch. They support everything from garage startups to iconic billion-dollar brands. Want to learn more about how you can grow your brand with Klaviyo? Visit klaviyo.com/grow to get started with a free trial today. That's klaviyo.com/grow.
I'll move on. -6% is my next. That is the early down pass rate relative to expectation for the Ravens so far this year. Now, this comes from a study of GitHub data. It's based on down, distance, field position, time, score differential, and win probability. It tries to factor in all those elements to say what percentage of the time should you pass on first or second down. Then it compares the percentage you actually passed to what it projects to be the percentage, and the Ravens still come up 6% lower. Now, there's only 4 teams that throw a lower percentage by more less than expected. And those 4 are Minnesota, Cleveland, Tennessee, and New England. There's one thing that's fairly well known among analysts is the teams that throw early tend to be the better teams. They tend to have big advantages on offense. And the top 4 teams added are Seattle plus 11%, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh. So you can kind of see that correlation more in the top 4 than you can see it in the bottom 4. But interesting that the Ravens are so polar in that category. I think if we look forward to what's going to happen to the 2020 Ravens, if they're going to be a contender and move forward, I think they're going to have to rely more on their passing game and throw more on those early downs in a post-Boyle world.
Yeah, definitely changes the game plan quite a bit, I think, going forward. I think running more on first downs made more sense when you were running so strong last year, but got to switch it up this year based on the results. So
yeah, got to recommend one more thing before we move on. Dan Reese, great study on this he did during the offseason. It's out there in the video section. Go take a look at it. It looks about running on first down, how the Ravens broke all the rules in 2019. I guarantee it's worth your time.
All right, jumping to the next number, 35.1%. That's the success rate for passes over 15 air yards for the Ravens so far this season. That's the worst in the NFL. Success is based off of an increase in EPA, or expected points added. Actually, just an increase in EP, expected points. And that would be caused by either a completion or a defensive passing interference. The NFL average is 48.1%. So the Ravens are at 35.1%. The Ravens have 0 defensive passing interferences and are 20 for 57.
So
just the concept, yeah. Go ahead.
Is there any other team with 0?
Defensive pass interference? I don't know. I didn't check that, but I don't think so. I'd be real surprised. So, it's lots of components, I'm sure, going into that 0 DPIs. But tied for 6th fewest attempts. But they just need to improve the success rate on those medium to deep passes for sure.
There you go. Okay, and my next stat is +3. That's the turnover margin this year for the Ravens. There's no statistic out there currently that I think correlates more closely with winning and losing than turnover differential. It's become even more important in recent years when the number of drives per game are lower. So I'll name you the top 10 teams, which are all +3 or better. It's Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Kansas City, Cleveland, Miami, Indianapolis, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, and Baltimore, all contenders. The teams with -3 or worse, there are 11 of those: the LA Chargers, Chicago, Cincinnati, Houston, Minnesota, San Francisco, Jacksonville, Washington, Philadelphia, Dallas, and Denver. And I know one of those NFC East teams is going to win that division, but that's still a terrible group of football teams that are at -3 or worse.
Yeah, winning that division doesn't make it mean you're a good team. So, yeah, I think it's also going to play a huge role in this rematch with Pittsburgh. Last game, it was, I think, 4-1 in turnovers with the Ravens down 3. So, if we can hold closer on the turnover ratio or even turn it our direction, I think it's going to hopefully make up for some of the losses we have this week. So, all right, my last number is a set of numbers: 37, 217, and 5.9. Those are Gus Edwards' rushing stats over the last 2 games against the Steelers. This is going to come into play huge this week for obvious reasons. That's 37 runs for 217 yards for an average of 5.9 yards per run. With Dobbins and Ingram out, Edwards is going to be huge on Thursday. And in addition to those turnover battle, his success in the run game is going to make or break this week.
Yeah, completely agree. What if you had to guess? What would you say Justice Hill percentage of carries this next week?
Oh, I think it depends if we get down and start having to pass. I think Justice Hill is going to run for maybe 20% of the runs.
Okay.
Just running back. I'm not including Lamar, I think. So
sure, and that's exactly the number that I had in my mind too. That's a good one. Okay, next number last is 1.6%. That's the chance of the Ravens winning the division after the loss to the Titans per the Football Outsiders playoff odds report. You're still at 75.1% to make the playoffs, but that is all obviously almost all via the wild card. From this point forward, the Ravens really need to be conscious of every wild card tiebreaker. They lost a big one to the Titans. I think that's very apparent to people. But the biggest is yet to come, and that's the game against the Browns. If they can win that game, they'll get out of the division first in the tiebreaker, and it'd be very unlikely that they'd fail to make the playoffs at 10-6 if they were able to beat the Browns, and the Browns don't go 11-5.
Yep, that's going to be a big game, but we got another big game this week, and a win here would make it even easier going forward. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be path through the wild card. May not make as big of a difference with home field this year, and it's going to be a different playoffs for sure with the new structure. So.
Yeah, very much. And maybe not a year to fear being on the road a little bit. But Dan, always a pleasure to do this show with you. I love doing it every week. And we'll talk to you next time on Film Study.